Some wounds never heal. Some faces never fade. But sometimes the hand that broke you is the only hand you can save. This is the story of a woman who learned that forgiveness doesn't erase the past, it transforms it. December 1944. Belgium, the Ardennes forest. The world is frozen. Snow covers everything, the trees, the roads, the bodies. War has turned winter into a graveyard. Her name is Lieutenant Sarah Brennan, 26 years old, brown hair tied back under a nurse's cap, eyes that still believe in something good. She's an Army nurse with the 67th Evacuation Hospital, stationed just behind the front lines. She volunteered, not because she wanted glory, but because she wanted to help. She grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania. Her father was a doctor. He taught her that healing wasn't a job, it was a calling. "You don't choose who deserves your care, Sarah," he used to say. "You give it to everyone. That's what makes us human." She believed him. She still does. The hospital is a collection of tents and makeshift shelters. Wounded soldiers arrive every hour. American, British, French. Blood-soaked uniforms, shattered bones. Screams that echo through the frozen air. Sarah works 16-hour shifts. She doesn't complain. She just moves from bed to bed, stitching wounds, holding hands, whispering comfort to boys who are dying far from home. She's good at this. She's needed here. Every morning begins the same way, the sound of ambulances arriving, the rush of stretchers being carried in, the desperate calls for morphine, for bandages, for anything that might save a life. Sarah moves through it all with a quiet efficiency that comes from months of practice. She remembers the names. That's what sets her apart. Private Johnson from Texas, Corporal Martinez from California, Sergeant O'Brien from Boston. She remembers their faces, their stories, the photographs they show her of sweethearts and mothers waiting back home. "Will I make it, ma'am?" they ask her, and Sarah always says yes, even when she knows she's lying, even when she can see death settling into their eyes, because sometimes hope is the only medicine that matters. The other nurses admire her. They call her Saint Sarah behind her back, not mockingly, but with genuine respect, because while they take smoke breaks and cry in the supply tent, Sarah just keeps working, just keeps saving whoever she can. But Sarah doesn't feel like a saint. She feels tired, bone-deep tired, the kind of exhaustion that settles into your soul and refuses to leave. She dreams about home, about her father's practice, about delivering babies instead of watching boys die. Still, she stays, because leaving would mean abandoning them. And Sarah has never abandoned anyone in her life. Then everything changes. December 16, 1944. The Germans launch a massive counteroffensive, a battle of the Bulge. No one saw it coming. The intelligence officers swore the Germans were finished, broken, defeated. They were wrong. Chaos erupts. Artillery shells scream through the sky. The ground shakes so violently that surgical instruments fall from tables. Explosions bloom in the distance, getting closer with each passing minute. The hospital is directly in the path of the German advance. "Evacuate, now!" The order comes from a colonel Sarah has never seen before. His face is pale with fear. Even the officers know this is bad. Worse than bad. This is catastrophic. But there's not enough time, not enough trucks, not enough anything. The roads are jammed with retreating American forces. The wounded are arriving faster than they can be moved. Dozens of men who can't walk, can't even sit up. Men who will die if they're transported. Sarah stands in the center of the main tent and makes a decision.
"I'm staying," she says. 3 other nurses look at her. Then they nod. "We'll stay too." The doctors argue, the officers order, but Sarah doesn't budge. These men can't be moved. Someone has to stay with them. Her voice is calm, final, the kind of voice that ends arguments. By nightfall, the hospital is nearly empty. Just Sarah, 3 other nurses, and 17 wounded soldiers who can't be evacuated. They hear the gunfire getting closer, see the flashes of artillery lighting up the sky like terrible fireworks. Sarah walks among the wounded, checking vital signs, adjusting blankets, lying about everything being fine. The soldiers know better, but they appreciate the lie. They always do.
Then the sound changes. Not artillery anymore. Something closer, sharper. Small arms fire. Rifle shots. The crack of grenades. The battle isn't coming anymore. It's here. Sarah stands frozen in the doorway of the medical tent. The temperature has dropped below freezing, and her breath comes out in white clouds. Through the darkness and snow, she sees figures moving. Soldiers. But not American soldiers. They're wearing different uniforms. Feldgrau, German field gray, the Wehrmacht. And they're everywhere. A young German officer steps inside the tent, tall, blonde, cold blue eyes that sweep across the room with mechanical precision. He surveys the wounded Americans, the blood-stained cots, the desperate nurses standing together in the corner. "You are prisoners now," he says in accented English. His voice is flat, emotionless, like he's reading from a script he's memorized. His name is Oberleutnant Klaus Richter, and Sarah will never forget his face. The German soldiers move through the hospital systematically. They separate the wounded from the staff. The nurses are pulled aside. Sarah tries to stay calm, tries to project the authority of someone in charge, but her hands are shaking. "These men need medical attention," she says to Klaus. "They're wounded. They are enemy combatants. They will be treated according to the Geneva Convention." His tone suggests he doesn't particularly care about conventions. Or maybe he's just tired. Sarah can't tell. They march the nurses through the snow that night. No coats, no food, no explanation. Just the crunch of boots on frozen ground and the silence of men who have stopped seeing them as human. Sarah's feet go numb within the first hour. By the second hour, she can barely feel her legs. One of the other nurses, a young woman named Margaret, starts crying. Sarah reaches for her hand, squeezes it. "Stay strong," she whispers. But Margaret just shakes her head. She knows what happens to women prisoners in war. They all do. They're taken to a commandeered farmhouse, now a makeshift interrogation center. The building is old, stone walls thick enough to muffle sound. Sarah notices this detail, and her stomach tightens. Buildings designed to muffle sound are never good news. The 4 nurses are kept together at first, locked in a small room with a single barred window. They huddle together for warmth, speaking in whispers, trying to convince themselves this will be okay, that the Americans will counterattack, that they'll be rescued soon. But on the 3rd day, they start separating them. Margaret is taken first. She doesn't come back. Then Elizabeth. Then Ruth. And finally, they come for Sarah. She's pushed down a narrow staircase into a cold stone cellar. The only light comes from a small window near the ceiling. The walls are damp. The air smells like earth and rot and fear. And there, waiting for her, is Klaus Richter.
He sits behind a wooden table. A single lamp casts harsh shadows across his face, making him look older than he probably is. There's a folder in front of him, papers, a pen. Like this is just another day at the office. "You are a spy," he says without preamble. Not a question, a statement.
Sarah's throat is dry. "I'm a nurse," she manages to say. Her voice shakes, but she forces herself to look at him, to meet those cold blue eyes. "Nurses do not stay behind. Nurses do not refuse evacuation." Klaus opens the folder. "You volunteered to remain with enemy wounded when you could have escaped. This suggests you had another purpose." "I stayed because my patients couldn't move." Sarah hears the desperation creeping into her voice. "They would have died." "Your patients are enemy combatants. They're human beings." For a moment, just a fraction of a second, something flickers in Klaus's eyes. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. But it vanishes as quickly as it appeared, replaced by that same cold mask. "I will ask you again tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. Eventually, you will tell me what I need to know. Everyone does." He leaves. The door closes. A lock clicks. And Sarah is alone in the dark. What follows breaks her. Not all at once, but piece by piece, day by day, hour by hour. The interrogations continue. Klaus questions her about things she doesn't know. Unit strengths, supply routes, command structures. Sarah tells him the truth, that she's just a nurse, that she doesn't have access to that information, but he doesn't believe her. Sometimes he's calm, almost conversational. He asks about her life before the war, her family, her training, as if they're two people having coffee, not captor and prisoner. These moments are somehow worse than the angry ones, because they make her forget, for just a second, where she is. Other times, he's cold, threatening. He tells her about what happens to spies, about courts-martial and firing squads, about how easy it would be to declare her an unlawful combatant, about how no one would ever know what happened to her. But he never touches her, never raises his hand. His weapons are different, more subtle, more effective. Sleep deprivation. She's woken every few hours. Just as she's drifting off, the door bangs open, someone shouts at her, then leaves, then comes back. Sleep becomes impossible. Time loses meaning. Isolation. Days pass with no human contact except Klaus. She doesn't know what happened to the other nurses, doesn't know if they're alive. The not knowing is its own torture. Cold. The cellar is freezing. She has only her uniform, no blanket. She shivers constantly, her body burning through calories it doesn't have just trying to stay warm. Hunger. They feed her, but barely. A piece of bread, watery soup, just enough to keep her alive. Her body starts consuming itself. Her clothes hang loose. Her thoughts become fuzzy. And through it all, Klaus keeps questioning her. The same questions, day after day, expecting different answers. "Your country has abandoned you," he says one afternoon. Or maybe it's evening. Sarah has lost track. "The American counteroffensive failed.
They're in full retreat. No one is coming. You're wrong, Sarah whispers. Her voice is hoarse. She hasn't had water in hours. Am I? Klaus slides German newspaper across the table. She can't read German, but the photographs tell the story. American soldiers surrendering, German tanks advancing, victory headlines. Even if that's true, Sarah says slowly, it doesn't change anything. I still don't know what you want. I want to believe you. For the first time, Klaus sounds tired, almost human. Do you understand how much easier this would be if you just gave me something, anything, a name, a location, just enough that I can justify releasing you? I can't give you what I don't have. He leans back, studies her. No, I suppose you can't. That night, something shifts. Sarah doesn't know what, but Klaus stops coming as often. The interrogations become shorter, less aggressive, as if he's given up on extracting information and is just going through the motions. Sarah spends her time in the cellar thinking about home, about her father, about the soldiers she failed to save, about Margaret and Elizabeth and Ruth, about whether she'll ever see daylight again. She prays, not elaborate prayers, just simple ones. Please let me survive. Please let this end. Please let me find some meaning in this. But mostly, she just endures.
3 weeks into captivity, Sarah collapses. Her body simply gives out. The malnutrition, the cold, the stress. It's too much. She falls to the stone floor and can't get up. Her vision goes dark. She welcomes it. When she wakes, she's on a cot. A thin blanket covers her. A cup of water sits beside her on an overturned crate. The cellar looks the same, but something's different. She's not on the floor anymore. Someone moved her, cared for her. And standing in the corner, half hidden in shadow, is Klaus. He doesn't speak, just watches her with those cold blue eyes that suddenly don't look quite so cold anymore. Why? Sarah's voice is barely a whisper. Her throat feels like sandpaper. Because you were going to die, Klaus says simply, as if it's obvious. Isn't that what you want? He's quiet for a long moment. Then, I want this war to end. Then stop fighting. It's not that simple. It is. Sarah tries to sit up but doesn't have the strength. You just stop. You walk away. Klaus moves closer. In the lamplight, Sarah can see him more clearly. He's younger than she thought, maybe 30. There are lines around his eyes, exhaustion in his face. And go where? Do what? I'm a soldier. This is all I know. You know other things. I can see it. Sarah doesn't know why she's saying this, why she's trying to reach him, but something compels her to continue. You're not just a soldier. You're more than that. You don't know me. I know you didn't let me die. Klaus looks away. His jaw tightens. That doesn't make me good. No, Sarah agrees, but it makes you human. He leaves without another word, but the water stays, and the blanket, and the next day there's bread. Not much, but more than she's been getting. And the day after that, he brings her a thin soup that actually has vegetables in it.
Klaus doesn't interrogate her anymore. He still comes to the cellar, but now he just sits, sometimes on the stairs, sometimes on the single chair. He doesn't speak, neither does she. They just exist in the same space. Two people trapped in different ways by the same terrible war. One evening, after days of this strange, silent coexistence, Sarah breaks the silence. "Do you have family?" Klaus doesn't answer at first. Sarah thinks maybe he didn't hear her, or maybe he's choosing to ignore her. But then, quietly, "A younger brother. He was killed at Stalingrad." "I'm sorry." And she means it. Despite everything, despite the cellar and the cold and the weeks of suffering, she means it. "Don't be." He believed in the cause. Klaus's voice is bitter. He thought we were saving Germany, saving Europe. He died believing that. "Did you believe it?" Klaus looks at her. Really looks at her. Once. And now. Now. He trails off, shakes his head. "Now, I don't know what I believe. I see what we've done, what we're still doing, the camps, the executions, the madness of it all, and I wonder what we've become." It's the most honest thing he's ever said to her. And in that moment, Sarah sees him clearly. Not as her torturer, not as the enemy, but as someone lost. Someone drowning in the same nightmare that's drowning her, just from a different side. "What was his name?" Sarah asks gently. "Your brother." "Stefan." Klaus's voice cracks slightly. "He was 19. He wanted to be a teacher. He loved books, poetry. He used to recite Goethe from memory." A sad smile crosses his face. "He was the good one. The best of us." "You loved him?" "Yes." Klaus wipes his eyes quickly, angry at himself for showing weakness. And this war took him, like it takes everything.
Sarah wants to reach out, to offer comfort, but she can't. The distance between them is more than physical. It's made of everything that's happened, everything that can't be undone. "I had a brother too," Sarah says quietly. "Daniel. He died when I was 12. Pneumonia. I watched my father try everything to save him. Nothing worked." She pauses, remembering. "That's when I decided to become a nurse. I thought if I could save other people, maybe it would make his death mean something." "And has it?" "I don't know. I saved a lot of men before you captured me, but I don't know if it was enough. If anything is ever enough." They sit in silence after that. Two people who've lost too much, who've seen too much, who are both trying to find some way to live with what the war has done to them. But the moment passes. It has to, because Klaus is still her captor, and Sarah is still his prisoner, and the war doesn't care about their shared grief. January 1945. The war turns again. The Allies push back. The German advance stalls, then reverses. Slowly at first, then with gathering momentum. The Reich is collapsing, though no one will admit it yet. The farmhouse is evacuated. Orders come from higher up. Fall back. Regroup. The prisoners are to be marched west, deeper into Germany. Sarah and the surviving prisoners are herded onto trucks in the freezing dawn. Klaus is there, overseeing the evacuation. He's being reassigned, sent somewhere else, somewhere the fighting is heavier. She overhears other soldiers talking. They don't think he'll survive. The Eastern Front is a death sentence. Their eyes meet as she's loaded onto the truck. Just for a second. Klaus opens his mouth as if to say something, then closes it. What is there to say? How do you say goodbye to someone you've hurt? Someone who somehow saw you as human anyway?
The truck pulls away. Sarah watches Klaus get smaller and smaller until he disappears into the snow and smoke. She doesn't know if she'll ever see him again. Part of her hopes she won't. Part of her hopes she will. She's too exhausted to untangle which part is stronger. The march west is brutal. Hundreds of prisoners, American, British, French, all shuffling through the snow. Many don't survive. They collapse by the roadside and are left there. The German guards are just as exhausted, just as hopeless. They're not cruel. They're just empty. Sarah helps where she can. She's still a nurse, even here. She shares her meager rations. She tends to frostbite. She holds the hands of men who are dying and whispers that it's okay to let go, that they fought well, that they'll be remembered. February 1945. Liberation comes suddenly. American forces overrun the prison camp where Sarah has been held. She hears the artillery first, then small arms fire, then English voices shouting, "You're safe now! You're going home!" But Sarah doesn't feel safe. She doesn't feel like she's going home. She feels hollow, scraped out, like everything that made her Sarah Brennan died somewhere back in that cellar. The army processes her. Medical exams, debriefings. A doctor tells her she's malnourished, but will recover. A colonel thanks her for her service. A chaplain asks if she wants to pray. Sarah just nods through it all. She's somewhere else, somewhere far away. She's sent to a hospital in England for recovery. The nurses there are kind, efficient. They feed her, give her clean clothes, a real bed, warmth, safety. Everything she dreamed about in that cellar. But she can't sleep. Every time she closes her eyes, she's back there, back in the cold, back in the dark. And Klaus, who's standing in the shadows, watching her with those blue eyes that saw too much.
March 1945. Sarah is sent home. Back to Pennsylvania. Back to her family. Back to a world that looks the same, but feels completely different. Her father meets her at the train station. He's older than she remembers. More gray in his hair. More lines around his eyes. When he hugs her, she feels how fragile he's become, how the war aged him too, even from thousands of miles away. "Welcome home, sweetheart," he says, and Sarah breaks down. Right there on the platform, with people staring, she sobs into his chest like she's 12 years old again, and he holds her like he did back then. And for a moment, everything is okay. But only for a moment. At home, her mother has prepared her favorite meal. Her old bedroom is exactly as she left it. The neighbors bring flowers and baked goods. Everyone is so happy she's alive, so grateful she's home. They ask her questions, carefully, tentatively, about what it was like over there. Sarah gives them the answers they want to hear, talks about the soldiers she saved, the camaraderie among the nurses, the satisfaction of making a difference. She leaves out the cellar, the interrogations, the cold and hunger and fear. She doesn't mention Klaus at all, because how do you explain that to people who didn't live it? How do you make them understand that the man who tortured you also saved your life? That you dream about him every night and wake up not knowing if it's a nightmare or something else? Her father, though, knows something is wrong. He's a doctor. He spent his life reading people, understanding pain that isn't spoken aloud. One evening, he finds Sarah sitting on the porch, staring at nothing. "You survived," he says gently, sitting beside her. "That's what matters." "But at what cost?" Sarah's voice is hollow. "You didn't do anything wrong." "I feel like I did. I feel like I betrayed something.
like I should have stayed strong, should have kept hating. But I didn't. I saw him as human. I felt sorry for him. And now I don't know what that makes me.
Her father takes her hand. It makes you my daughter. It makes you the woman I raised. The woman who believes every person deserves compassion. Even Nazis? Even broken people who did terrible things. He squeezes her hand. Sarah, you didn't betray anything. You stayed true to who you are. In the darkest possible circumstances, you remained human. That's not weakness. That's the strongest thing you could have done. Sarah wants to believe him, but there's a question that haunts her. A question she can't escape. A question that follows her through her days and invades her dreams at night. If I saw him again, what would I do? The question terrifies her because she doesn't know the answer. And not knowing feels like standing on the edge of an abyss, staring into darkness that stares back. The nightmares continue. Some nights, it's the cellar, the cold, the hunger. Klaus's voice asking the same questions over and over. Other nights, it's worse. She dreams that she had a choice, that someone put a gun in her hand and told her to shoot Klaus. And in the dream, she can't pull the trigger. She just stands there, frozen, while everyone around her screams that she's a traitor. She wakes up gasping, covered in sweat, her heart racing. And the question echoes, what would I do?
April 1946. Over a year has passed since liberation. The war in Europe has been over for nearly a year. The trials are beginning in Nuremberg. The world is trying to make sense of what happened, trying to find justice, or at least something that looks like it. Sarah has tried to move on. She's working at her father's practice now, delivering babies, treating influenza, stitching up farm accidents. Normal medicine. Peaceful medicine. Medicine that doesn't involve boys bleeding out on cots. But she can't shake the feeling that she's running away, that there's something unfinished, something she needs to face. The International Red Cross sends out a call for volunteers. They need nurses for displaced persons camps in Germany, for field hospitals treating former prisoners of war, both German and Allied. Everyone tells Sarah she's crazy to even consider it. You've done enough, her mother says. You gave them 4 years. You nearly died. You don't owe them anything more.
But it's not about owing anyone anything. It's about finding some kind of closure, some way to make peace with what happened, with who she became in that cellar. I have to go back, Sarah tells her father. I have to understand. He looks at her for a long time, then nods. I know. You're not going to try to stop me? Would it work if I did? Sarah smiles sadly. No. Then I'll just say, be careful, and come home when you're ready. May 1946. Sarah arrives in the British occupation zone of Germany. The country is in ruins. Entire cities reduced to rubble. Millions of displaced people wandering the roads, looking for home, for family, for any reason to keep living. The Red Cross assigns her to a field hospital that treats primarily former German POWs. Men who spent years in Allied prison camps and are now being repatriated. Many are sick, malnourished, some are missing limbs. Others are just missing hope. The other nurses look at Sarah like she's a saint or a fool. Maybe both. "Why would you volunteer for this?" one asks. "These are the people who started the war." "They're also the people who lost it, and they're still human." The nurse shakes her head. "I can't be that forgiving." "Neither can I," Sarah admits. "But I can be a nurse." And so she works. She changes bandages, administers medications, holds bedpans, all the unglamorous, necessary work of healing. Most of the German soldiers are polite but distant. They know who she is, what she represents. They accept her care with quiet gratitude and don't ask questions.
Some of the other nurses refuse to treat the German patients with kindness. They do their jobs, but coldly, mechanically. They deserve what they get, one says, after everything they did. Sarah understands the sentiment. She even agrees with it sometimes, but she can't bring herself to act on it, because she knows what her father taught her, what she learned in that cellar, even if she didn't want to learn it. You don't choose who deserves your care. You give it to everyone. That's what makes us human. The days blur together. Sarah falls into a routine. Morning rounds, medication distribution, wound care, paperwork. It's exhausting, but familiar. And slowly, very slowly, she starts to feel like herself again. Then one day in late June, everything changes. A transport arrives with a new group of patients. Former Wehrmacht soldiers from a Soviet prison camp. They're in terrible condition. Years of hard labor and starvation have reduced them to walking skeletons. Many won't survive. Sarah is assigned to intake. She works her way down the line, doing quick assessments, determining who needs immediate intervention and who can wait. It's brutal triage, choosing who lives and who dies, but someone has to do it. She's examining the 15th patient when something makes her pause. His face is turned away, but there's something familiar about him. The shape of his jaw, the way he holds himself even in weakness. She leans down to check his pulse, and he turns his head. Blue eyes, sunken and hollow, but unmistakable. Klaus Richter. The world stops.
Sarah's breath catches in her throat. Her hands freeze. The clipboard slips from her fingers and clatters to the floor. Around her, the hospital continues. People moving, talking, working. But she's not part of that world anymore. She's somewhere else, sometime else. She's back in the cellar. One of the other nurses notices her reaction. "You okay?" Sarah forces herself to nod, forces air back into her lungs. "I'm fine." But she's not fine. She's drowning. Every carefully constructed wall she's built over the past year is crumbling. And behind those walls is everything she tried to forget. Everything she couldn't forget. Klaus doesn't recognize her. He's too weak, too delirious with fever. His eyes are glassy, unfocused. He mutters something in German that Sarah doesn't understand. The doctor arrives for his assessment. "Sepsis," he says grimly, checking Klaus's vitals. "Infection from an untreated shrapnel wound. It's been festering for months. If we don't operate immediately, he'll be dead by morning." Sarah stares down at Klaus. This man who locked her in a cellar, who questioned her day after day, who broke her piece by piece. This man who also brought her water when she was dying, who told her about his brother, who admitted he didn't know what he believed anymore. This man who was her torturer and her savior, her enemy and her mirror, the person she's been trying to understand for over a year. And now his life is in her hands. The doctor looks at her. "Sarah, I need you to assist with the surgery. You're the most experienced nurse here." The other nurses have left. It's just Sarah and the doctor, and Klaus, unconscious on the gurney. The operating theater is ready. The instruments are laid out. Everything is prepared. Sarah could walk away. No one would blame her. No one would even question it. She could say she's not feeling well, that she needs a break, that someone else should do it. And Klaus would die, quietly, peacefully, and she would be free. Free of the nightmares, free of the questions, free of the terrible, confusing tangle of emotions that his face brings up. She could let him die, and part of her wants to. The part that wakes up screaming, the part that still feels the cold of that cellar in her bones, the part that remembers what it felt like to be powerless and afraid. But then she hears her father's voice, clear as if he's standing right beside her. "You don't choose who deserves your care, Sarah. You give it to everyone. That's what makes us human." And she realizes, if she lets Klaus die, she becomes what she feared most. She becomes someone who chooses who deserves compassion, someone who lets hate dictate her actions, someone who places revenge above humanity.
And that's not who she is. That's not who she wants to be. Not even for him. Not even after everything. "I'll do it," Sarah says quietly. Her voice doesn't shake. Her hands are steady. "I'll assist." The surgery takes 6 hours. Sarah works through the night. She hands instruments, monitors vitals, does everything a nurse does. She's done this hundreds of times before, but never like this. Never with her hands literally holding the life of someone who hurt her. The doctor removes the shrapnel, cleans the infected tissue. The wound is bad, worse than bad. Klaus should have died months ago. The fact that he survived this long is a miracle, or a curse. Sarah isn't sure which. She watches Klaus's face as they work. Even unconscious, even ravaged by fever and starvation, she can still see traces of the man from the cellar, the one who sat in the shadows and talked about his dead brother, the one who was lost and drowning and trying desperately to find some solid ground. Dawn breaks as they finish. The sky outside turns gray, then pink, then gold. A new day. Klaus is still alive, stable. His chances aren't good, but they're better than they were. Sarah cleans up, disposes of the bloody instruments, washes her hands. Through the window, she can see the ruins of a city she doesn't know the name of, buildings reduced to shells, lives reduced to memories. War has a way of destroying everything it touches. She sits in the break room, drinking cold coffee that tastes like dirt. Her body is exhausted, but her mind won't stop. She saved him. She actually saved him. The man who tortured her is alive because she chose to keep him that way. The other nurses trickle in as the shift changes. They talk about their patients, their plans for the day off. Normal conversation. Sarah nods in the right places, but doesn't really hear them. She's somewhere else, trying to understand what she just did, trying to understand herself. Klaus wakes 2 days later. Sarah is checking his bandages when his eyes open. For a moment, he just stares at the ceiling, confused, disoriented. Then his gaze shifts to her, and she watches recognition dawn slowly across his face. "You," he whispers. His voice is rough from disuse, barely audible. Sarah says nothing. She continues her work, checking the wound, recording his vitals, professional, distant. "You remember me?" It's not a question.
Yes. Sarah doesn't look at him. Can't look at him. Klaus is quiet for a long time. When he speaks again, his voice is thick with emotion. Then why? Sarah finally meets his eyes. Because I'm a nurse. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. Klaus closes his eyes. A single tear slides down his cheek, cutting through the grime and stubble. I don't deserve this. No, Sarah agrees quietly. You don't. Silence stretches between them. Heavy. Loaded with everything that happened. Everything that can't be undone. But neither did I, Sarah continues. Her voice is steady now. Strong. I didn't deserve what you did to me. I didn't deserve that cellar, that fear, that hunger. I didn't deserve any of it.
Klaus opens his eyes, looks at her, really looks at her. No, you didn't. So we're even then. Sarah finishes with his bandages, prepares to leave. We're not even. Klaus's voice stops her. We'll never be even. What I did to you, I can't undo it. I can't make it right. I know. Then why save me? Sarah turns back to face him. Because if I didn't, I'd lose the only part of me that survived you, the part that still believes in something, the part that your cellar didn't break. She pauses. You tried to destroy who I am, and if I let you die out of hate, you'd finally succeed. Klaus stares at her. Understanding dawns in his eyes, and with it, something else. Shame. Deep, profound shame. I'm sorry, he says, his voice cracks. I'm so sorry. Sarah feels something break inside her. Not break apart. Break open. All the rage she's been carrying, all the fear, all the guilt and confusion and pain, it pours out of her. And in its place, something else begins to grow. Not forgiveness, not yet, maybe not ever, but something softer, something that allows her to breathe again. I know, she says simply, and she leaves. Over the following weeks, Klaus recovers slowly. Sarah treats him the same as any other patient. No special treatment, no cruelty, just care. Professional, efficient care. She changes his bandages, brings his medication, records his progress, but she doesn't engage beyond what's necessary. The other nurses notice, but don't comment. They assume Sarah is just being thorough, professional. They don't know the history. And Sarah doesn't tell them. But Klaus knows, and every time Sarah enters his room, she can see it in his eyes. The weight of what he did. The gratitude for what she's doing. The impossibility of reconciling the two. One afternoon, Sarah is checking his wound when Klaus speaks. I hated you, he says quietly.
Sarah's hands pause for just a moment, then continue their work. I know. Not you specifically, but what you represented. The enemy. The reason my brother died. The reason Germany was losing. He stares at the ceiling. It was easier to hate than to question. Easier to believe in the cause than to admit we were wrong. And now? Now I see how much easier I had it. Hate is simple. It gives you purpose, direction. But you, he looks at her, you did something much harder. You saw me as human, even when I didn't deserve it.
even when it would have been so much easier to let me die. Sarah finishes her work, begins packing up her supplies. I didn't do it for you. I know. You did it for yourself, to stay who you are. Klaus's voice is soft, but it still saved me, and I will carry that for the rest of my life. Good, Sarah says. You should. Another silence. Then Klaus speaks again. Do you hate me? Sarah considers the question. Really considers it. I did. For a long time, I hated you more than I've ever hated anyone. I hated you so much it consumed me, woke me up at night, followed me through my days, made me feel like I was still in that cellar even when I was free. And now? Now, I don't know. Sarah meets his eyes. I'm angry. I'm hurt. I'm scarred by what you did. But hate? I don't think I hate you anymore. And I'm not sure if that's growth or just exhaustion. Klaus nods slowly. I understand. Do you? Do you really understand what it's like to have someone break you and then have to save them? To have to choose between who you were and who they tried to make you? No, I don't. But I'm trying to. Sarah sits down in the chair beside his bed. She doesn't know why. She should leave, should maintain professional distance, but something keeps her there. Tell me about Stefan, your brother. What was he really like?
Klaus's expression softens. He was everything I wasn't. Kind, gentle. He believed the best of people, even when they didn't deserve it. He smiles sadly. He would have liked you. He would have said you were exactly the kind of person worth fighting for. But you fought for something else. I fought for an idea, for a vision of Germany that turned out to be a nightmare. Stefan fought for people, for individuals. He understood something I didn't. He understood that nations don't matter. Ideologies don't matter. Only people matter. And by the time I learned that lesson, it was too late. It's not too late, Sarah says quietly. You're still alive. You can still choose what to do with that. What can I do? I'm a war criminal. I participated in atrocities. I hurt innocent people, including you. Klaus looks at his hands. There's no redemption for someone like me. I don't know about redemption, Sarah says, but there's still life. And what you do with it matters. She stands. You can spend the rest of your days drowning in guilt. Or you can spend them trying to be the person your brother believed you were. Either way, you have to live with yourself. She leaves him with that thought. The weeks turn into months. Klaus grows stronger, strong enough to walk, strong enough to leave the hospital. His repatriation papers come through. He's being sent to a displaced persons camp while the authorities decide what to do with him, whether to try him for war crimes or simply let him disappear into the masses of broken German soldiers trying to rebuild their lives.
The day before he's scheduled to leave, Klaus finds Sarah in the supply room. She's organizing bandages, taking inventory. He stands in the doorway, hesitant. I'm leaving tomorrow, he says. Sarah doesn't turn around. I know. I saw the paperwork. I needed to. Klaus struggles for words. I will carry what I did to you for the rest of my life. There's no forgiveness that can erase it, no apology that can undo it. I know that. Then why are you here?
Sarah finally turns to face him. "Because I want you to know that you saved more than my life." Klaus's eyes are wet. "You showed me that humanity still exists, even after everything, even after all the darkness. You proved that it's possible to remain good in a world that rewards cruelty." Sarah shakes her head. "I'm not good. I'm just a nurse who couldn't let someone die. Don't make me into something I'm not." "But that's exactly what makes you good. You did the right thing, even when it hurt, even when every part of you wanted to do something else." Klaus takes a step closer. "I don't expect your forgiveness. I don't even want it, because forgiveness would suggest that what I did was somehow forgivable, and it's not. Then what do you want? I want you to know that I'm sorry, truly, deeply sorry. And I want you to know that because of you, I'm going to try to be better. I'm going to spend whatever life I have left trying to honor what you did for me." Klaus's voice is steady now, certain. "I can't undo the past, but I can choose who I am going forward. And I choose to be someone who would make Stefan proud, someone who would make you not regret saving." Sarah looks at him for a long moment. This man who hurt her, who broke her, who then showed her something about herself she didn't know, something strong and unbreakable that lived beneath the fear. "Good," she says finally. "Do that. Not for me, not even for your brother, but for yourself, because you have to live with who you are. Make sure it's someone you can live with." Klaus nods, extends his hand. After a hesitation, Sarah shakes it. The touch is brief, formal, but it means something. It closes a chapter, begins another. "Goodbye, Sarah." "Goodbye, Klaus." He leaves, and Sarah never sees him again. But she thinks about him. Not every day, not even every week, but sometimes, when she's faced with a difficult choice or a hard truth, she remembers. She remembers the cellar, the fear, the moment she chose to save him. And she remembers that she survived, not just the war, not just the torture, but the test of who she really is. Years pass, many years. Sarah returns to America. She marries a kind man who doesn't ask too many questions about the war. They have 3 children. She works as a nursing instructor at the local hospital, teaching the next generation how to care for people. All people. She never speaks publicly about Klaus. Her husband knows some of it. Her father knew more. But the full story remains hers alone, a private history that shaped her in ways she's still discovering.
Sometimes, late at night, when she can't sleep, she wonders what happened to Klaus. Did he survive the post-war chaos? Did he face trial? Did he rebuild his life? Did he keep his promise to be better? She'll never know, and maybe that's for the best. Some stories don't need endings. They just need to be lived. Her children grow up. They go to college. They ask her about the war the way all children eventually do. She tells them the sanitized version, the heroic nurses, the wounded soldiers, the sense of purpose. She leaves out the cellar, the cold, the man who hurt her, and the impossible choice she made. But one day, when her youngest daughter is in nursing school, she asks a different question. "Mom, what do you do when you have to care for someone you don't want to help? Someone who hurt you or someone you love?" Sarah looks at her daughter, sees her own young face reflected back. The idealism, the certainty that the world can be divided into good people and bad people, and that we only owe kindness to the good ones. "You help them anyway," Sarah says quietly. "Why?" "Because the moment you start choosing who deserves care based on whether you like them,
You stop being a nurse. You stop being human. Sarah pauses, remembering. The people who hurt us are often the ones who need help the most, not because they deserve it, but because somewhere along the way, someone failed to help them. And that failure created the person who hurt others. That's not fair, her daughter protests. Why should we have to fix what other people broke?
We don't have to, but we can choose to. And that choice defines us. Sarah takes her daughter's hand. I'm not saying you have to forgive them. You don't. I'm not saying it won't hurt. It will. But you can't let what they did to you change who you are, because then they win. Her daughter thinks about this. Did someone hurt you, Mom? During the war? Sarah nods slowly. Yes. What did you do? I saved his life. Why? Because that's who I am. And no one, not even the war, could take that away from me. Time continues its march. Sarah's husband dies. Her father dies. One by one, the people who knew her story pass away. She becomes a grandmother, then a great-grandmother. The years pile up like snow, covering the past, making it softer, less sharp. But the memory remains. The cellar, the cold, the choice. It's there when she looks in the mirror, when she teaches a difficult student, when she faces a moral dilemma. It's there, shaping her, defining her, reminding her of who she chose to be when it mattered most. One winter afternoon, when Sarah is 83 years old, she sits on her porch watching snow fall. It's been falling all day, covering the world in white, making everything clean and new. Her youngest granddaughter, Emma, sits beside her. The girl is 16, curious, full of questions about a world she's only read about in history books. "Grandma," Emma says, "what was the war like?" Sarah looks out at the snow. For a moment, she's not on the porch anymore. She's in the Ardennes, in the cellar, standing over an operating table with steady hands and a breaking heart. "It was terrible," she says quietly. "The worst thing I've ever lived through." "Were you scared?" "Every day." "Did you do brave things?" Sarah considers this. "I did necessary things. I don't know if they were brave." Emma is quiet for a moment. Then, "Did you ever meet anyone who hurt you?" Sarah's breath catches. It's been decades since anyone asked that question. She looks at her granddaughter, sees the innocence there, the genuine curiosity, and decides that maybe it's time. Maybe the story needs to be told. Not the full story, but enough. "Yes," Sarah says, "I did." "What did you do?" Sarah looks back at the snow, remembers the coldest winter of her life, remembers a young German officer with blue eyes and a broken soul, remembers the moment she chose who she would be. "I saved his life." Emma's eyes widen. "You saved the person who hurt you?" "Yes." "But why? He hurt you. He didn't deserve your help." "No," Sarah agrees. "He didn't. But I wasn't doing it for him. I was doing it for me." She turns to Emma. "Do you understand? If I had let him die, if I had chosen revenge over compassion, I would have become someone I couldn't live with. He would have taken something from me that I could never get back." "What?" "My humanity. My belief that people can choose to be good,
Even when it's hard. Even when it costs them something. Sarah reaches over and takes Emma's hand. The world tried to teach me that some people don't deserve kindness, that some people are beyond compassion. And maybe they're right. Maybe he didn't deserve what I did for him. But I deserved to stay who I am. And that was worth more than revenge. Emma thinks about this. Was it hard? The hardest thing I've ever done. Do you regret it? Sarah considers the question. Really considers it. Does she regret it? Regret saving Klaus? Regret choosing compassion over hate? She thinks about the nightmares that followed her for years, the questions that haunted her, the impossible weight of understanding someone who hurt you. But she also thinks about who she became. A woman who didn't break. A woman who chose strength over bitterness. A woman who proved that trauma doesn't have to define you. That you can survive the worst and still choose good. No, Sarah says finally. I don't regret it, because it taught me something important. What? That forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about you. It's about refusing to let hate poison your life. It's about choosing who you want to be, even when the world gives you every reason to be someone else. Did you forgive him?
I don't know if I'd call it forgiveness. I'd call it release. I released myself from the need for revenge. I released myself from the anger that was eating me alive. I chose to move forward instead of staying trapped in that moment forever. Emma is quiet, processing. Then, do you think he changed? The man you saved? I hope so. I'll never know, but I hope he kept his promise to try to be better. Sarah smiles softly. And even if he didn't, even if he went back to being the same person who hurt me, it doesn't change my choice, because my choice was never about him. It was about me. The snow continues to fall, clean and white and endless. Emma leans against her grandmother's shoulder. I think you're the bravest person I know, Grandma. I'm not brave, sweetheart. I'm just someone who survived and chose not to let survival be the end of my story. They sit in comfortable silence, watching the snow cover the world. And Sarah thinks about all the years between that cellar and this porch, all the life she's lived, all the people she's helped, all the students she's taught, all the love she's given and received. She thinks about Klaus sometimes, wonders if he's still alive, if he ever thinks about her, if he kept his promise to be better. But mostly, she thinks about herself, about the choice she made, about the woman she became because of it. Some wounds never heal. That's true. The scar tissue remains, the memory lingers. But scars are also proof that you survived, that your body knew how to repair itself, that you were strong enough to keep living. Some faces never fade. Klaus's face is still there when Sarah closes her eyes. The blue eyes, the sharp cheekbones, the expression of someone lost and drowning. But it doesn't haunt her anymore. It's just part of her history, part of the journey that made her who she is. And forgiveness? Sarah has learned that forgiveness isn't a moment. It's not a decision you make once and then you're done. It's a process, a daily choice to release the anger, to choose peace over bitterness, to move forward instead of remaining frozen. She forgave Klaus, not because he deserved it, not because what he did was okay, but because carrying that hate was destroying her, because she needed to let go to survive, because she deserved peace more than he deserved her anger. And in forgiving him,
She didn't erase what happened. She didn't make it okay. She didn't become friends with her torturer or pretend the trauma didn't matter. She simply chose to stop letting it control her life. That's the truth that Sarah carries with her, the truth she passes down to her granddaughter on that snowy afternoon, the truth that took her decades to understand. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's not about condoning. It's not about the other person at all. It's about choosing who you become in the aftermath of pain. It's about refusing to let the worst moment of your life define all the moments that follow. It's about remaining human when everything around you tries to make you a monster. The sun sets. The snow keeps falling. Emma goes inside to help with dinner, and Sarah sits on the porch alone, wrapped in a blanket, watching the world turn white. She thinks about that cellar one last time, the cold, the fear, the hunger, and the moment when Klaus brought her water, the moment when she saw him as human, the moment that changed everything. "Thank you," she whispers to the snow, to the memory, to herself. "Thank you for teaching me that I'm stronger than my pain, that I'm more than what happened to me, that I can survive the worst and still choose good." The snow doesn't answer, but Sarah doesn't need it to. She already knows the truth. She's lived it. She's become it. And that's enough.
Some wounds never heal. Some faces never fade. But forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing who you become in the aftermath. And Sarah chose to remain human, even when it would have been easier to become a monster. Even when she had every right to choose hate. Even when the whole world would have understood. She chose compassion. She chose healing. She chose life. And in doing so, she proved that no one, not the war, not her captors, not even her trauma, could take away the essence of who she was. She was a nurse, a healer, a woman who believed that every person deserved care. And she remained that woman, even in the darkest moment, even when it cost her everything, even when it would have been so much easier to let hate win. That's the story Sarah carries. That's the legacy she leaves. Not a story about forgiveness as weakness, but a story about forgiveness as the ultimate strength. The strength to choose who you are. The strength to remain yourself even when the world tries to break you. The strength to save a life even when that life belongs to someone who tried to destroy yours. And sitting on that porch, watching the snow fall, Sarah understands something she's always known but never quite articulated. She didn't save Klaus that day in the hospital. She saved herself. She saved the part of her that believed in something bigger than revenge, the part that knew healing was stronger than hate, the part that refused to let trauma have the final word. She was a survivor. But more than that, she was someone who chose what surviving meant. And that choice made all the difference.